So this is a kind of a response that they had after everybody was like, oh my God, there's no way. And so now they're saying, to clarify, we mean, so still no renderings, but they want to see the creative process. The renderings, if you read down further though too, if they find your rendering, like if you sneak one in and they figure out it's a rendering and not a photograph, they're going to take your project down. It's done. It's not even a question. It's done. It's gone. So, you know, there's a lot of people talking about it. I have opinions on it. I don't think it's good. I think that, you know, as designers, it's part of the design process. You know, the point of Kickstarter is you don't have the funds to make it happen from the beginning anyway. That's why you're on Kickstarter. And so to sit there and say that you have to have the final product and no renderings only, I think is a little absurd. I love this person's response, which is educate the consumer backer and don't penalize the designers and creators, which I think is pretty much spot on. You know, and a lot of people are, you know, like the next person is like, yeah, no kidding, you know, seriously. But you know, if you're on that site, you know, of course, you know, for us, you're going to get a skate bench, and I could understand if somebody contributed, especially on a high-end limited edition, $500. And they got nothing, I would be upset too, but you know, in the end, I could really only be upset at myself that I was helping start a project that, you know, wasn't off the ground yet. I was helping get off the ground, because really that's kind of the most important part about it. And for us, the relationships that we made along the way, I think were kind of the most rewarding things out of this whole thing. So it's a shame that Kickstarter is kind of doing this. I think it's going to be a lot difficult to do it. Like I said, I feel like it's kind of like that big band now. It's kind of like YouTube. They just do what they want to do, but really they're not that great anymore. It'll be interesting to see how other sourcing programs come out of it, because I guarantee some of the others that have been trying to do the product stuff only as a Kickstarter form that weren't succeeding because Kickstarter was so big, they will now start to succeed. So it'll be interesting to see some of those others that are starting to go up. But from the crowdsourcing standpoint too, I think it's really becoming interesting and changing our society in a lot of good ways. Like there's a new one called Neighborly, and it's neighbor.ly. And in the reel that we had, we designed a pro bono playground for a French immersion school here in Kansas City. And phase one was where we got material donated and parents, and we were out there helping them build these phase one structures. And now phase two is bigger beyond what parents can do. So it's on this crowdfunding site for civic projects called Neighborly. I think that stuff gets really pretty interesting. So I'm kind of intrigued to see where all this goes. But until then, we were in the right place at the right time, I guess you would say, and that's where we are now. So hopefully it was kind of informative for you guys. We enjoyed the ride as much as we did. Any questions? Yeah?
Yeah, so you had that list of referrers. Where did you get that information about who, you know, where the referrers were and all of that?
That's all back end on my end.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so that's all data that I can see that nobody else can see. But I couldn't even see that during the process. I can only see that.
That came through Kickstarter, or?
Yeah, I can just log in now. And
Okay.
basically, I have a dashboard, so I can see all that stuff historically. But I mean, that would have been honestly one of the great things to see during the project, because then you could see what's working and what wasn't working. Like one of the things that we did, we took out Facebook ads. And, you know, Facebook ads are great. I don't know if you guys have done it yet, but I mean, you don't spend a lot of money because you say, I want to spend $50. And each ad that I'm going to be doing is, I want to spend $1.50. And so you only get charged when somebody clicks on your link. And so we ended up making like a couple grand. You know, that was great to know now, but, you know, then I would have spent maybe a little bit more money, you know, on it. So
when you were showing all the different levels of money levels for participation, and some got t-shirts, and so we have access to them. Were you fulfilling those as they came in at that point, or
Yeah.
that, and haven't hit the 15,000 threshold?
No, they only get something if the project is funded. So, that, I mean, and if it doesn't get funded, they don't get charged. So, there's really not that much of a risk, but it is pretty interesting how mentally people associate it as a risk, because it was really funny how right after we passed our goal, all these orders started coming in again. And it's like, but you know it now because you can sit there and say, if you see a project that you like, you can say, ping me at this certain point, and you can say within a week or when it gets funded or whatever. So I think a lot of people just do that. They're like, hey, if it catches on, I'm interested in it, great. If not, I'm not going to worry about it and spend any more time. Yeah.
I have a question. Okay, so I was wondering, I mean, you showed some examples of people who had purchased it and had it, and they kind of did something unique with it. Like, what were some of the things that people showed you that were kind of a surprise? You didn't expect they would use it that way, or something that you're like, oh, that's kind of cool. We didn't think about that.
My mother-in-law uses it as a plant stand. And her cat likes to go on it. Now that's probably, honestly, it's probably the most ridiculous one. Really, nobody really surprised us with it. I mean, it was more cool just to see how they were using it. It's ways that we expected that it would be. I mean, it's not a piece that you buy and you're like, I'm going to sit on this every day. This is a piece that it's a memes piece. You're gonna have to sit there and people are gonna go, wow, that's really cool. Man, it's really, like a huge chair, it's really low. Maybe it's not the most comfortable thing, but it's beautiful. And so we knew that was going to be the case. I mean, so most of the time, we hear a lot of people say that it's great for guitar, which I think is great. My daughter and I use it when we play guitar too, because we were like, heard it's great for guitar, maybe we should try it. It is great for guitar. So, those, just the small stories out of it were the fun things to hear. So, and it's cool to see more about how, I think Art of Board is, that's a company that I mentioned before that recycles the old decks and makes tile. I think I'm always intrigued in what's the next life of something, and so it's really cool to see skateboarders so proud of their deck, how badly they thrashed it, put it on there. I mean, I think and that's kind of what we wanted too, is to see what people put on there. A lot of times it's pristine, but a lot of times we get these pictures of their thrashed deck. So, yep.
Was Kickstart the only avenue, for this big thing in the market? Do you consider anything else, or is that, make it happen?
I mean, certainly there's other ways. As I said before, with our firm, we develop projects and then sell them to other companies and stuff. And, that happens, but this one was one of those ones where it didn't make a lot of sense. I mean, there's not a huge market here. And, it's been successful, but I wouldn't say that we've made any money off of it. I mean, if you equate it to hours, we certainly haven't made any money big time. And the money that we have made on it, we've just reinvested in it. So, maybe we've all had a couple nice dinners and beers over it, but that's probably about it. So, now, we just put all our money into placing a big order with balance, so we have a new product. There goes that money. And then we'll get we'll sell that out, and we'll get that money, and then we'll make another order, and that money will be gone. Maybe we'll have a few more cocktail parties, but that's about it. It could, in a couple of years, we'll see what happens. We're willing to take this risk and this ride now just to see, but honestly, right now, it's fun, it's great. We have no illusions that this thing is going to be our retirement plan, by no means. So, we just, we enjoy the ride. It's fun. Yeah.
Overall, what's your intention with the project? Why did you decide to do a CD project?
That came out of the we were working on a project for a client, and it was so contract furniture, office furniture. And it was, we were designing seating, and it was just coming out of the conversation that we were having about the eating stuff and how timeless it was. And it just organically grew out of that. And so it was coming out of that, and at the same meeting, we were just talking about new technologies and ways to use it in a different, intriguing way. I mean, honestly, it was one of those things where, I mean, it took 15 minutes because it was totally organic, you know. And sometimes those things happen. Sometimes you have to write them out, and sometimes they happen, and then you have to say, that's ridiculous, I'm not pursuing that any further. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Back, and
Yeah, have you, I'm sure you guys have seen like some of the bicycles out there. I've seen some parades in Savannah that's like double, triple decker bicycles that are absurdly tall but fun for some reason. Have you seen anybody add like kind of wheels for them?
oh, yeah. Well, we we went to this skate park in Kansas City, and we had it, and did you see that photo where like, the bowl was behind it, and this guy sitting there? Well, there was this homeless guy there, and he was like, what is that thing? And we were like, it's a skateboard bench, and he's looking at it, and he's like, I just don't get it. And we're like, well, what do you mean? And we're like, you know, Chris and I are looking at each other trying to figure it out. We're like, what do you mean? You know, you kind of just sit on it. Coastal market anyway, and some boys from Kansas City coming up with something unique, I think is hard to get into, and I think it legitimized us right away. And obviously, you know, we wouldn't have become friends with Tony Hawk Foundation and Mike B and all those things if that weren't the case. I mean, you know, like people like Mr. Constantine, you know, I had known, you know, in passing at IDSA conferences and stuff, but you know, I've gotten to know him better through all this stuff because, you know, once they put it on the board, I sent him an email saying, hey, thanks for the great article and stuff. And I also had noticed that he backed one, and I said, by the way, thanks for backing. He goes back right away. He was like, this is the first project that I've backed on Kickstart. He's like, I think this is awesome. So, I mean, you know, we become friends with Stuart for, you know, obviously, I mean, any press is good press. And so, absolutely, it's helpless. So, I wouldn't say that we've gotten any projects from it. But everybody who sees it loves it. You know, every client who sees it, you know, drools over it. So,
it's also a learning process though for us. So if you think about it from a designer standpoint, we always knew that we would take different avenues to develop product, develop projects, but until we went through this, and partially it's a rationalization for the hours that we put in that we just recently tabulated because we were a little afraid to know what the total was.
we did not want to know the total.
Yeah, but entrepreneurially, the threshold for Kickstarter is low enough that we would never have even contemplated something like this. So we didn't go into it thinking, oh yeah, we're going to get rich making skate benches. But the process of going through this now is an eye-opener in terms of the process of developing product and realizing that fulfillment sucks, so that if you want to do that, the next idea you have, you know, you've learned the lessons in something that really wasn't that risky in terms of just us investing some time. I kind of feel like that's one of the biggest things, regardless of what you're trying to do on Kickstarter, is it's a way for creative people, regardless of what you're developing, to get some experience pitching and manufacturing and producing and distributing a product that you would never have been able to do before Kickstarter.
And by me bashing on Kickstarter, please don't. If you guys are thinking of doing Kickstarter, do it. I mean, test it out. I mean, I'd say it's worth it. Just know what you're getting into and know that you might have just a little bit more development time up front than we did. And I thought we had a pretty fair amount. I mean, I thought we had actually a lot. I mean, we had everything in line and we were ready to go. With that said, now with the rules, we couldn't have done what we had. Which that's kind of disheartening. But don't let us not do it.
You mentioned was it Neighborly? Is that one of the other nonprofit companies?
good because I like the fact that it's civic projects and it's all for the right reasons. You know, like one of the things I don't like about this whole process is it's kind of like whenever you get any press. A lot of times the phone calls that you get on the phone from people that you want to get calls from is insurance agents, you know, everybody wanting to sell you something. You know, and so along those lines, there's a lot of forums like that who will contact us and be like, hey, you had something successful on Kickstarter, we want you to help build our brand. But you start reading through this stuff and it's just, they're ambulance chasers, you know, and it's too bad. I think, you know, the cream will rise to the top. So I don't think that there are any that do the product yet that Kickstarter does, but I think that there will be. And especially now after what Kickstarter does. And I'll be interested to see how Kickstarter addresses that too, because, you know, that means, you know, well, like Scott Wilson, I mean, they made some easy money off of him, you know, putting some renderings up there, and people got their product fulfilled. And now I think they're going to look at a line item and say, oh, our numbers aren't as big as they once were. I think maybe we should do renderings. And I think that's probably what's going to happen in this whole process, because I think the design community is going to revolt a little bit, and either they change or somebody else will come in. But hey, that's evolution, right?
So what does Kickstarter get from the project? 10%?
They get a percent. They get a percent, Amazon gets a percent, and then you get your check. So, yeah, what was it? It seemed like they took a third, the two of them combined was a third. So, I mean, that's why those calculations at the beginning are, you know, just sit there and go, well, here's my profit, because your profit starts to dwindle, you know, and like, another international shipping. Like, yeah, okay, so here's one for you, international shipping. So, like hours before we were ready to hit launch on our Kickstarter thing, we had in there, for international shipping, add $20. And we go, okay, let's just see how much it costs to ship this to Japan, in case if we get somebody wanting in Japan, which we did. And we would have been paying people to ship this stuff around. And so, you know, we said, you know, international shipping will be, you know, determined on where your location is. And so they had to then pay us additionally beyond that through PayPal. So, but, I mean, that would have been something where we would have definitely lost money, just in the few sales that we had.
So now that you have these amazing techs like Tony Hawk and whatnot, have you thought about doing any like design skate park stuff like for the environment in like the areas?
Yes.
I know there's a lot of stuff like skate parks look at as like something that's almost like an extra to society instead of making it a beautiful area where people can interact and skateboard, as well as if somebody wanted to go read a book, they could sit inside and enjoy the beautifulness of the.
The answer is yes. I mean, we're already down that, and that's where Light Beat comes in. We're actively going after places where we can make skate parks actually basically a community benefit, but not just for young kids. Basically, make it a hub for the community. So, yeah, awesome. We're on it. Yeah. He was mentioning Snoop Dogg as a person who might want to invest in that. And I was like, oh yeah, I know him.
Got a lot of money.
Yeah. I'd say, know him, I love it.
So skate bench number 1, was there a series that was intended for that, or what's next?
We kind of always name things like this as they're coming up in our studio, intentionally, but also intentionally for what you're alluding to is that, yeah, I mean, the idea is that things happen, but I mean, it'll happen just as organically as this happens. So if this takes off and becomes a success, we have things that will fill in the gap and come out of the line. We like being in. The funny thing is we're not really in the skate business at all. I mean, you know, it's really people who like modern furniture is who likes this. That's our target market. It's people who have money
selling through Kickstarter, or like are your current sales through something else?
Now, once Kickstarter is over, it's over. And so it's done. That will always be up there as that it existed and stuff. But yeah, we have our own for sale site on it. So we'll have that. And then once we're up and running again, we'll get going through Urban Outfitters. We'll get going through Fab again. We'll get going through all those other things. So, but our site, luckily, has kind of gotten enough traffic. You know, that it was a pretty good clip while we were producing. So, for being a side project.
But had your studio like gone through this much detail of post-design work, like manufacturing all the way to selling, or is this all new to y'all? Like, because you said you maybe new design and sell them all.
It's definitely not new to us. I mean, it's new to us in that it's our money, but it's not new to us. I mean, so with all our clients, every client is unique to us, and we treat them uniquely. And so there's some clients that already have manufacturing resources, and we work with those manufacturing resources. There's some clients that have no clue or don't like who they have, and we help them source new people. So it's not something that's new. There's the difference for us is that it's our own money, and we're doing all the negotiation. You know, usually we're saying, okay, here's the manufacturer. You guys talk numbers. We just make sure that it's all done right, done correctly, and that's our goal.
Any other questions? Has anyone ever done anything like this with Kickstarter or any other crowdfunding platform? No?
Does anybody want to?
Yeah. You guys?
Is that scary? Can consume you. But good things can happen to you.